Hey guys, it's Miss Keenum, and today we're going to talk about how to decompose fractions. This is part 2 of our video series on fractions, and the fractions video series will more than likely be a 4-part video series. So what do you think decomposing a fraction is? So the word decompose means to break down or to separate into smaller parts. So when we translate that meaning to decomposing a fraction, that means that we are going to break a fraction into its smaller pieces. Remember that a fraction is the parts that make a whole. If I have a piece of pie and I cut that pie into 8 slices, one slice would be 1/8 of the piece of pie. It takes 8 slices to make the whole, or 8 parts to make the whole. Each slice is a piece, and each slice represents a fraction. Okay, so let's get started. So let's decompose the fraction 4/5. So first, I want us to draw the fraction. So get you a scrap sheet of paper and a pencil or some crayons, and let's draw this fraction. So when we draw the fraction 4/5, what does it look like? So remember, my bottom number is going to be my denominator. And that tells me the number of slices or the number of parts that make the whole. So you can see here, I've already divided it into 5 pieces. I need 5 pieces by this bottom number, by the denominator. That tells me how many slices are required to make the whole. Okay, so now I know that my fraction, though, is 4/5. Okay, so that means that I have to put 4 pieces to get my fraction. So I can break these pieces apart to decompose my fraction. So when I do that, I can say, okay, well, I'm going to bring this part down, and this part down, and this part down, and this part down, okay? So see how I've broken that up? And so I have 1/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5. And see how that gives me a total of 4/5? Each of these blue boxes represents a fifth, and I have 4 blue boxes. So I have a total of 4/5. So over here on the right-hand side where it says write it out, I can say that 4/5 equals 1/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5. Good deal. So we can see that we can break this fraction into parts, and that is fraction decomposition. But there's more than just one way that I can decompose a fraction. So instead of having it like this, I could have made it be like, so I could have had 1/5, and together those make 2/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5. So I'm always adding my top number, my numerator, to make sure that the number decomposes correctly and equals my original fraction. So right here, I could have also said that this was 2/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5. See how my bottom number never changes? I want you to notice that. The bottom number never ever changes. It's always the same as my original fraction, okay? But my top number does change, and the total of these top numbers equals 4. See how 2 plus 1 plus 1 equals 4? Or here, 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 4. So my bottom number never changes, and I'm only adding my top numbers. And those top numbers have to equal the numerator in my original fraction. Okay, let's keep going. So on this one, I want to decompose the fraction 3/8. So the first thing that I want us to do is to draw that fraction out. So take the sheet of paper and the pencil, crayon, marker, whatever you have, and draw the fraction 3/8. Remember, to do that, I have to look at my bottom number, the denominator, to determine how many pieces or how many parts make up my whole. Because my bottom number is 8, I know that I need 8 pieces to make my whole. Okay, so I have my 8 pieces right here. 8 total pieces, and I know that because my top number, the numerator, is 3, I know that I have 3 pieces. That's all I have of my whole. I only have 3 pieces of my whole. Okay, so let's put our pieces into our fraction, our visual fraction. Each of those orange sections represents an 8. Okay, so when I decompose my fraction, remember, I can move this down. And I can say that I have 1/8. Because remember, each orange section only represents 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8. So when I write it over here on the right-hand side, I can say that 3/8 equals, notice, once again, my bottom numbers never change. They are always 8. And then notice how I add my top numbers, my numerator. I add that, and each of these add up to equal 3. Okay? So how else do you think I could split this fraction up? Fraction 3/8 could be decomposed into the fractions 1/8 plus 2/8. Once again, my bottom number doesn't change. My denominator is 8 every single time in every single fraction, but my top numbers add up to give me my original numerator of 3. Okay, let's try one more, and this time we're going to try one with the whole number. So this is a mixed fraction, and it says decompose the fraction 2 3/4. Okay, so go ahead and draw that fraction out. Okay, now I have my fraction, and my fraction is 3/4. Remember, I look at my bottom number to determine how many sections I need to make a whole. I need 4 sections. Then I look at my top number to determine how many sections or how many parts of my whole that I have. And I see that I have 3 parts of my whole. So I have the fraction 2 3/4. Now I need to decompose that fraction. Okay, so I can do that by moving this down and saying, well, I have 1 plus 1. And I could say I have plus my 3/4. Which could end up giving me the fraction or the decomposition of my fraction of 1 plus 1 plus 3/4. So that's one way I could decompose my fraction. So that equals 2 3/4. Different ways to do this. I want to show you one more thing, okay? Notice that my whole, my 1, is really made up of 4 parts. So just like in the purple one where I'd split them up because that was my fraction, my whole number is also made up of parts. So I also could have written this instead of saying 1 plus 1 plus 3/4 equals 2 3/4. I could have written it as 4 over 4 plus 4 over 4 plus 3/4 equals 2 3/4. Because remember, any number that has, or any fraction that has the same number for the numerator and the denominator equals 1.